In this session, I will be talking about how to do LEQ notes. This is in preparation for the A-Push AP test that is on May 6, 2016 on a Friday at 8 a.m. for California. The first topic I will be talking about is Jefferson through Jackson from 1800 to 1837. Andrew Jackson was the seventh president of the U.S., and he was elected in 1829. He was a Democratic Republican who was considered to be a common man, and he was from the frontier region of the Carolinas, in particular South Carolina. Before he was actually president, he was in a fierce feud with John Quincy Adams, who had a very small presidential achievement record. John Quincy Adams. Jackson, he was a favored candidate during the election of John Quincy Adams and Andrew Jackson. But then John Quincy Adams won because of the corrupt bargain with Henry Clay, which was Henry Clay was the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and he made a promise with John Quincy Adams stating that if Henry Clay got the House of Representatives to vote John Quincy Adams to be president, Henry Clay would be made Secretary of State, and it did fall through. And due to this corrupt bargain, Jackson got really mad. He started voicing his opinion against this, and it later got him elected in 1829. He was also considered a common man. He was the people's person. He also proved himself in the Battle of New Orleans in 1815, and he wanted to benefit the common man, or the white man in America, which made Jackson's popularity soar. Jackson also had a lot of controversy over the Maysville Road Bill, and it also showed his complete support of the common people. The Maysville Road, it was a bill proposed under the American system to create a road linking Lexington and Maysville and the Ohio River in Kentucky, which he vetoed in 1830 because he felt that it was unconstitutional. And he also thought this bill would interfere with America paying off its debt, and that if people wanted to create roads and canals, then they should do it somewhere else in the U.S. And it should be not done in just a single state. It should be done throughout the country, but funded by the states, not the federal government. And this was against the will of the federal government because it proved how Andrew Jackson wanted to benefit all of the common people. And he also vetoed the charter for the Bank of the United States twice. The first time he did in 1836. He also did this because he hated Nicholas Biddle, who was a very rich man, and he did this for the benefit of the common man, or the common people, because he believed that there were too many people who held power in their hands. Too few of people that had power in their hands. And he wanted to benefit the common people. He also, his chartering of the Bank of the United States twice, it ruined the economy of the United States really bad, and that's what led to the panic. One of the panics during his presidency. He also signed the Indian Removal Act into law, which made the Cherokees have to be moved during Van Buren's presidency. The Trail of Tears it wasn't carried out under Andrew Jackson, but the Indian Removal Act was. Van Buren was the president who actually carried out the Trail of Tears during his presidency. During Jefferson's presidency, both Thomas Jefferson and Jackson shared several similarities. They both disliked the national bank. Jefferson also believed, like Andrew Jackson, that there's too many people that are given power, and then that every state should be responsible for its own banking system. There should be less federal government intervention, or the federal government should be involved less in the affairs of the nation. And they both believed that the common man pertained to white people, and then that Native Americans were also a headache or a nuisance for American exploration. Andrew Jackson, he also took part in battles against the British. Thomas Jefferson, Louisiana Purchase 1803, bought it from France for a few $1,000,000. And Louisiana purchase price was $15 million in 1803. France sold it to us. France sold the Louisiana territory to us, and that's how we got Louisiana territory. And Jackson did sign the Indian Removal Act in 1830. The second topic I will be going over is the era of good feelings. Was it truly the era of good feelings, or was it more of sectionalism or nationalism? Or was sectionalism or nationalism more important during the years of 1850 and 1825? The era of good feelings was a period of time where the United States wanted to reflect a sense of national purpose and a desire for unity among its people. The Federalist Party also collapsed as a result of what happened to John Quincy Adams. Benjamin Russell, the Boston Federalist newspaper, coined the phrase the era of good feelings. James Monroe is commonly associated with the era of good feelings. Emerging nationalism was further cemented by a goodwill tour Monroe undertook early in 1817 in Boston. And then when James Boston was a Federalist in New England, he was received with a heartwarming welcome. The era of good feelings wasn't truly the namesake. This is because tariffs were in hot debate, the charter of the Bank of the United States, internal improvements under the American system, and the sale of public lands were hot issues. When the financial panic of 1819 came about, much of the good feelings of the era of good feelings drained. These good feelings that came about from the era of good feelings disappeared, and then it gave way to the financial panic of 1819, which brought deflation, bank failures, unemployment, soup kitchens, and overcrowded penthouses, aka debtors' prisons. The main factor that contributed to the panic of 1819 was the over-speculation of frontier lands. So, due to the over-speculation of frontier lands, this led to the panic of 1819, which then led to the era of good feelings. The era of good feelings not being truly called era of good feelings. And then through the eyes of people in the West who had debt, the Nationalist Bank of the United States soon became a kind of a financial devil. The next topic I will be going over is related to the Progressive Era, World War I, 1920s, Great Depression, World War II, in regards to the increased role of the federal government in the economy from 1900 to 1945, which basically means government involvement in the American economy in these time periods. What was the effect on civil liberties for Americans during the First and Second World Wars? What was the experience of the home front during the First and Second World Wars? How has technology changed America from 1900 to 1945? The government involvement in the economy during the Progressive Era, past tariff, currency, and antitrust laws, World War I, government involvement in the economy, War Industry Board, 1917, National War Labor Board, 1918, Committee on Public Information 1917 and Food Administration 1917. The War Industry Board actually kind of just it put all the industry of America together and geared it towards war. The National War Labor Board, it basically just regulated labor in the U.S. during wartime. The Committee on Public Information was basically a propaganda machine, and the Food Administration, it rationed food during wartime in America. During the 1920s, the government involvement in the economy was the Congress passed the Fordney-McCumber tariff of 1922, which raised import tariffs. During the Great Depression, the government got involved in the economy through the Public Works Administration, Civilian Conservation Corps, the AAA, the TWA, and a few other organizations. World War II, the government got involved in the economy by doing the National War Labor Board 1942, similar to the one back during the First World War. The War Production Board, it basically took all industry in the U.S. and converted to wartime. The Office of War Information, it was really similar to the Committee on Public Information with propaganda, associated propaganda. The effect on civil liberties for Americans during the First World War, their civil liberties of Americans were restrained through the passage of the Espionage and Sedition Acts, which were passed in 1917 for the Espionage Act and the Sedition Act 1918. And it basically put people in jail if they criticized the government, president, or they'd be deported. During World War II, the effects on civil liberties for Americans were that Executive Order number 9066 was signed in 1942 by FDR that ordered the internment of Japanese Americans, which took their civil rights away, and Korematsu versus U.S. in 1944, which the Supreme Court decision was that it upheld the legality of Executive Order number 9066. The experience of home front for Americans during the First World War, lots of women and African Americans worked in factories, huge mobilization of men for draft in industry, and industry was heavily upgraded to cope with the huge influx of military orders. During World War II, the experience of the home front, the effects on civil liberties was an experience of home front for Americans was lots of women worked in factories. Dances were held for men the day before they were going to be shipped off for combat, and Western Union telegram officers came by with news of death or injury or any other wounded in action, missing in action, killed in action. And then technology changed America from 1900 to 1945 by increasing the amount of people who own technology, and all this technology revolutionized their lives. Now I'm going to go over an LEQ outline, how I do it and how I've learned to do LEQs. It's going to be 5 paragraphs. The first paragraph, you introduce the topic stated in the thesis. That's 3 sentences, and then you have a thesis that is made up of 3 parts. And the reason you want 3 parts to your thesis, because each part of the thesis represents a body paragraph. And in the second paragraph, it includes your topic sentence, introducing the paragraph, and you give 3 examples of a topic for the paragraph. And the second paragraph is the same for the third and the fourth paragraphs, which are all of the 3 body paragraphs. And then the 5th paragraph is the synthesis, which is 1 sentence. And the synthesis is basically a different time period that must be an American event or an event that took place in American history. And you can compare or contrast the topic to a different time period in American history. It depends on the topic. You could put whatever you want, but it just has to be a different time period.